Step into the arena of minds. On this channel, every move is a clash of strategy, every sacrifice a turning point, and every game a battle for glory. Watch two players push the limits of creativity and calculation, as we bring you the drama, suspense, and excitement of chess like never before. Wesley So opens with d4, pushing his central pawn forward boldly as he claims space and announces early aggression. Shatters Van Wely replies nf6, developing his knight actively while challenging Wesley's center and preparing flexible counterattacking possibilities. Wesley expands with c4, strengthening his central grip and preparing queenside pressure that could restrict Black's developing pieces. Shatters chooses g6, setting up a kingside fianchetto to strengthen dark square control and prepare long-range counterplay. Wide. Wesley develops nc3, reinforcing central influence while preparing harmonious piece coordination for an intensified strategic battle ahead. Shatters activates bg7, placing his bishop on the long diagonal to pressure central squares and balance against White's growing space. Wesley advances e4 forcefully, staking dominant central territory and preparing a powerful pawn duo to challenge Black's setup. Shatters solidifies with d6, creating a sturdy defensive pyramid and preparing controlled resistance against White's ambitious central formation. Wesley develops nf3, improving king's safety prospects, while reinforcing a5 pressure and readying immediate tactical possibilities in the center. Shatters castles kingside, securing his monarch and connecting rooks to brace for the sharp middle game tensions Wesley is creating. Wesley calmly develops b2, completing kingside setup and preparing to castle while maintaining flexible plans for later pawn breaks. Shatters strikes with a5, challenging the center directly and attempting to fracture Wesley's structure before it becomes overwhelming. Wesley castles swiftly, anchoring his king safely and mobilizing his rooks for the dynamic central clashes soon approaching. Shatters develops n6, adding pressure on d4 and preparing to contest key squares as the tension steadily escalates. Wesley pushes d5 aggressively, driving the knight back while seizing space and transforming the center into a battlefield. Shatters retreats n7, rerouting his knight towards defensive posts and preparing potential counterplay on dark, congested lines. Wesley maneuvers n8, repositioning the knight for future kingside pressure while supporting central control with strategic finesse. Shatters reroutes n7, clustering pieces defensively and preparing to resist Wesley's special advantage with flexible countermeasures. Wesley reinforces with f3, stabilizing his center and preparing a powerful pawn storm aimed at dark square domination. Shatters launches 5 energetically, striking at Wesley's center and igniting direct pawn clashes that promise brutal complications. Wesley develops b3, targeting queenside weaknesses while coordinating pieces for upcoming breakthroughs against Black's tense formation. Shatters drives f4 forward, gaining space aggressively and harassing Wesley's bishop to intensify pressure on the kingside front. Wesley withdraws bf2, preserving his bishop and preparing to counter Black's advancing pawns with calculated resilience. Shatters expands with g5, reinforcing his pawn's spearhead and sharpening aggressive intentions toward Wesley's king position. Wesley strikes g4, colliding pawns violently and opening dangerous lines that could erupt into tactical firestorms. Luke thrusts h5, supporting his pawn chain and preparing to rip open the kingside with heavy uncompromising pressure. Wesley plays h3, aiming to stabilize his structure and restrain Black's pawn avalanche before it fully overwhelms him. Luke lifts rf6, readying lateral rook swings, and adding muscle to his intensifying kingside siege against Wesley. Wesley maneuvers nd3, centralizing the knight to bolster defenses and prepare counterattacks amid rising kingside chaos. Luke swings re6, positioning the rook aggressively to open lethal files and strengthen threats against White's weakened flank. Wesley drives c5, blasting open central lines to undermine Black's defenses and shift momentum sharply in his favor. Luke captures nx5, grabbing the pawn while inviting dynamic complications that may expose his king later. Wesley recaptures nxc5, exchanging knights to fracture Black's structure and intensify pressure on vulnerable dark squares. Luke replies dxf5, reshaping the center while accepting weaknesses that could become targets as tensions escalate. Wesley captures bx5, activating his bishop forcefully and highlighting cracks in Black's pawn shell around the king. Luke shifts ng6, repositioning his knight to defend key squares and maintain resistance against White's expanding initiative. Wesley plays Racone, zeitzing the c-file and preparing heavy rook pressure to exploit weaknesses across Black's camp. Luke retreats b-fight, consolidating his king's shelter while preparing potential redeployment along safer, more controlled diagonals. Wesley jumps nb5, threatening tactical forks and increasing pressure on Black's queenside as the battle intensifies sharply. Luke counters bd6, reinforcing central defenses and attempting to neutralize Wesley's knight while bracing for escalating complications. Wesley launches qb3, aiming straight at Black's weakened queenside while stacking pressure on b7 and daring Luke to respond accurately. Luke strikes hx4, tearing open kingside lines and hoping to unleash brutal counterplay before Wesley's mounting threats become unstoppable. Wesley recaptures fxg4, reopening files toward Luke's king and preparing lethal rook activity as tensions flare violently across the board. Luke centralizes qe7, adding protection to vulnerable points while eyeing tactical chances to disrupt Wesley's tightening stranglehold. Wesley captures bsd6, removing a key defender and further destabilizing Black's structure as cracks widen dangerously around the board. Luke replies cxdts, restoring material balance but deepening structural weaknesses that Wesley can later exploit with precise technique. Wesley jumps nx7, snatching a pawn and invading Black's queenside with bold confidence as his initiative grows even stronger. Luke lashes out qa7, hunting kingside targets and trying to stir counterplay before Wesley's expanding material edge becomes decisive. Wesley builds pressure with rc3, reinforcing central control and preparing rook lifts that could crash into Black's fragile defenses. Luke pushes f3, thrusting forward aggressively to destabilize White's coordination and spark desperate attacking chances near the king. Wesley calmly plays bxf3, eliminating the advanced pawn cleanly and tightening his overall grip while neutralizing Luke's risky initiative. Lek develops BD7, regrouping defensively, while hoping to coordinate pieces for one final stance against Wesley's overwhelming momentum. Wesley grabs Kuake's Besa7, collecting another pawn and shredding Black's queenside while threatening deeper penetration into Luke's collapsing camp. Lek activates RR fight, centralizing counterpressure and preparing tactics to contest open lines despite his increasingly compromised position. Wesley develops BG2, reinforcing kingside security while preparing long-range threats that sharpen his control across both wings. Loek Yums F4, seeking complications with an active knight sortie aimed at provoking weaknesses or creating sudden tactical shots. Wesley responds Rx F4, eliminating the intruding knight decisively and shutting down Loek's last significant source of dynamic counterplay. Loek counters X4, reopening lines toward White's king, but further scattering his own structure into dangerous, exploitable weaknesses. Wesley leaps N6, planting his knight deep inside enemy territory and threatening forks that intensify pressure on Black's trembling position. Loek checks with QE7, trying to stir threats against Wesley's king while clinging to whatever tactical chances remain available. Wesley advances QB4, improving queen activity and targeting multiple weak points as he steadily tightens his near-winning grip. Loek pushes F3, attempting renewed counterplay by opening dangerous lines and forcing Wesley to stay accurate under rising tension. Wesley answers Rx FT3, eliminating the pawn again and asserting total control as Loek's attempts at resistance steadily fade. Loek regroups with Rx FT3, grabbing material while hoping for last-minute tricks despite his deteriorating position and structural collapse. Wesley replies BX F3, trading down calmly to simplify into a winning structure that leaves Black almost completely helpless. Loek captures Rx Stage 3, seeking swindling chances by activating his rook deep inside White's kingside, despite looming defensive problems. Wesley plays KJ2O, sidestepping threats, while preparing to trap Black's rook and convert his overwhelming material superiority cleanly. Loek drops RR6, retreating his rook to safety while desperately trying to rebuild harmony in an already doomed defensive setup. Wesley presses Q/6, invading decisively and aiming at weaknesses everywhere as Black's collapsing structure offers no resistance. Loek counters Q fight, clinging to defense and trying to guard key squares, though his position remains critically compromised. Wesley drives QD8, penetrating deep into Black's heart and threatening immediate exchanges that would simplify into an easy win. Loek trades QX8, removing queens to reduce immediate threats but stepping directly into a hopelessly lost endgame position. Wesley recaptures Nx8, centralizing his knight while keeping decisive material advantage and maintaining full control of the board. Loek pushes KJ7, improving king's safety, slightly while preparing passive defense against Wesley's advancing pieces and pawns. Wesley activates N6, centralizing the knight with dominant influence as he prepares the final phase of his clinical conversion. Loek responds right, reorganizing his rook in a last attempt to contest open files despite his nearly collapsed defenses. Wesley advances F5, breaking open central lines and threatening decisive infiltration as Black's pieces struggle helplessly behind. Loek captures BS6C9s, removing the knight but further loosening his structure, leaving weaknesses that Wesley can exploit immediately. Wesley replies dx, opening lanes and creating a powerful passed pawn that severely restricts black's remaining defensive resources. Luek checks with dsf5, grabbing material, but failing to slow Wesley's advancing forces as collapse appears completely inevitable. Wesley finishes before, centralizing his bishop triumphantly and sealing the final grip on a position Luke can no longer defend. That's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to bring you even more exciting chess games. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.